Hello, Seahawks. Today you're going to be taking your first notes on integers and absolute value. You will be taking notes on the page that you were given in class today, this one on 1-1 integers and absolute value notes. See, it says it right across the top. And if you look, there are two vocabulary terms that I would like you to look up, okay, integer and absolute value, and write what you find the definition is of each. For the examples, you can wait until the very end and put into examples, or if you'd like to do that right after you get the definition, you may. And if you're unsure, just give it a try, put in an example, and tomorrow I'll go over any examples that you may have, any questions you may have. Just give it a try. So for this first part, for the definitions, you get the definitions. You could use Google, you could use your math textbook, you could use a dictionary, whatever works for you. And then just fill in a couple of the examples. Okay. So you did your notes on, you did the definitions at this point on absolute value, and the first thing we're going to talk about is finding the absolute value. So you may have gotten the definition of absolute value. Absolute value is the distance a number is from zero. Okay, so let's take a look at our first few examples. Okay, example number 1. That question is asking you, what is the absolute value of 12? So that's what these symbols here mean. They're the symbols right here. Okay, they look like two L's or something, you know, maybe like a longer L. I call them like goalie posts, kind of, okay? Those are absolute value symbols, okay? So that's your symbol for absolute value. So what this question is asking you is, how far is the number 12 from 0, okay? So if we had a number line here, okay, and I'm just going to, and if you would like to do this, you can. We have 0. I'm going to count by 2s, 4, 6, 8. Of course, I didn't go far enough. 10, 12. And we have 2, 4. This would be a -2, -4, -6, -8, -10, and then we would have a -12. I'm going to write that right there, okay? So how far is the number 12 from 0? Okay, well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it is 12 away from 0. So the absolute value of 12 is 12. Okay, so for number 2, the question, this would be your answer. That's it. It's that easy. Question number 2, what is the absolute value of -12? How far is -12 from 0? Okay, I'm going to just switch my color here. So we have, how far away is it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. It is 12 away from 0. So the absolute value of -12 is also 12. That's all you're doing for these problems. How far away is it from 0? It's 12 away from 0. The absolute value of +12 is 12. The absolute value of -12 is 12. Okay, so for number 3, I'm not going to draw this number line because I'd have to go all the way out to -24. But how far away is -24 from 0? It is 24 away from 0. So the answer to number 3 would be 24. And the last one, number 4, again, I'm not going to draw a number line for this. How far away is 27 from 0? What is the absolute value of 27? The absolute value of 27 would be 27. Okay, a lot of people think that absolute value is the opposite. It's not the opposite. It is how far the number is from 0. So if you have the absolute value of -12, it's a +12. The absolute value of a +12 is 12. Okay, no matter what, it's the distance from 0. Okay, right now I'd like you to give a try on the couple examples that the questions that you were given in the video. Give those a try and then continue your video. You should have a question to answer. For this next part, we're going to be comparing integers and absolute values using these symbols that you should be familiar with. You should have seen, I know you've seen these before, okay? And these symbols, it's very important that you know which symbol means what. I know that you may have learned early on in elementary school, probably the younger ages, that the alligator ate the bigger number and so on and so forth. Well, now that we're big 7th graders, we are going to know which symbol means what without the alligator, okay? So, the less than symbol, let's fill that in the box, looks like this. That would be the less than symbol, okay? The greater than symbol looks like this, okay? Then we have the equal, which you should all know, right? And then there is the less than or equal to, which looks like this, and the greater than or equal to symbol. Now these two symbols we're not going to be dealing with so much just yet, but you should be aware of those symbols. Okay, the first 3 are what we're going to really be working on right now. Okay, and those symbols you've seen, but I want you to know which symbol is what without any numbers, okay? Which one is your less than symbol, this is your greater than symbol, and your equal to symbol. So number 5, we're going to compare those two numbers. We're going to plug into that blank less than, greater than, or equal to, okay? But before we do that, if you look at number 5, there is an absolute value symbol around the -5. So first, we need to decide what is the absolute value of -5. And when you're doing problems with this, I know it might seem silly to some of you, but I want you to rewrite what the absolute value is of -5 right below it, and then the other number, and then compare the numbers, okay? I think that this will help you not make silly mistakes. So, the absolute value of -5. How far is -5 from 0? -5 is 5 away from 0. So I'm going to rewrite the absolute value of -5 as 5, and I'm going to rewrite my own line there, and then I have a 4 there. I don't really have to do anything with that, it's just a 4. So, is 5 less than, greater than, or equal to 4? Okay, well, if we looked on a number line, and you really shouldn't have to do this, but when we're dealing with the positives and the negatives, it's a little bit trickier. Is that correct grammar? Not sure. Okay, so which one is farther to the right on the number line? 5 would be, so 5 is greater than 4. And that's what you should plug in for a symbol there. 5 is greater than 4. Okay, looking at number 6, we have 8. We're talking about 8, and on the other side of this, we have the absolute value of -8. How far away is -8 from 0? -8 would be 8 away from 0. Okay, so comparing those two numbers, is 8 less than, greater than, or equal to? Well, 8, you should know, is equal to 8. And then we're going to look at number 7. We first have in the absolute value symbol 7 minus 5. So we want to know the absolute value of 7 minus 5. Okay, absolute value symbols are like grouping symbols. They're just like parentheses or brackets that you may have learned last year, okay, or the year before possibly. So what I would like you to do, you need to do what's inside the absolute value first, then find the absolute value, okay? So first we're going to figure out what is 7 minus 5. Well, 7 minus 5, that's a first grade problem, is 2. Then we're going to find the absolute value of 2 after we're done. I'm going to bring down the rest of this Okay, we have the absolute value of 2 and the absolute value of 4. So now let's find the absolute value of 2. How far away is 2 from 0? Well, 2 is 2 from 0. And then we want to know the absolute value of 4. How far away is 4 from 0? That would be 4. And now we're just comparing the numbers 2 and 4. And is 2 less than, greater than, or equal to 4? And 2 is less than 4. Okay, so that should be pretty simple, I would say. If you could right now, you're going to do the example that you're given and answer that question. All right. Okay, for this next question, number 8, it says, while playing a game, you move back 4 spaces with your roll of a number cube. Your friend moves forward 7 spaces. Write each amount as an integer. Okay, I have students that look at this question and they don't understand what they have to do, or they think they have to add, or they're just not sure. Okay, so just looking at this, all it says is to write each amount as an integer. That's it. Okay, so what you've got to think about here is where it says you move back 4 spaces. Okay, so I'm just going to write you. Okay, move back 4. That's basically what I'm going to write as an integer. Well, if you are moving back on a game or anywhere, okay, would that be a positive number or a negative number? Moving backwards would be a negative, okay? So to write that as an integer, I would write that as -4. That's my integer. That's all they're asking you to do on this type of question. And I included this in here because you may see this question on a homework assignment or on a quiz or a test, and it really is that simple. And students don't realize what they're asking, and that's basically all they're asking. Write it as an integer. Okay, you also have to write the other one. Your friend moves forward 7 space. So your friend, and that would be forward 7, well, is moving forward a positive number or a negative number? Okay, forward would be a positive number. So to write that as an integer, it would be 7. That's it. It's that simple. Okay, just understanding integers. And I believe that you learned a little bit about integers maybe last year. If your teacher had some time at the end of the year, they might have talked about it. But all your life, you have been dealing with integers, okay? If you play any sports and you, let's say, play football and you gain yards or lose yards. Gaining yards would be positive numbers. Losing yards would be negative numbers. If you're looking at temperature, if you've ever looked at the weather with your parents or on your own, okay, when the temperature goes up, that's a positive. When it goes down, that would be a negative. The temperature may not be negative, but going down is a negative. Okay, if you have ever talked about, if you've ever had any money, maybe in your own bank account or even at home in your wallet or whatever, and when you pay for something, that would be you're getting rid of the money, you're deducting it. That would be a negative number. When you gain money, that would be a positive. If you make money for doing chores, or maybe you work for a neighbor or something like that, you clean their yard and they give you money, that would be a positive. But if you go buy a game at the store, then that would be a negative. So that's just understanding integers. Okay? Okay, this may be the hardest part, if you want to even consider this hard, of this section. We have ordering the numbers from least to greatest. Okay, and if you look, I have the numbers -7, absolute value of 4, absolute value of -5, 6, and -2. When you're doing this, I want you to first find the absolute value of everything first, then put them in order, okay? So looking at this example, the number on number 9, -7 is just a -7. The absolute value of 4, how far away is 4 from 0, would be 4. The absolute value of -5, how far away is -5 from 0, would be 5. Then we have the number 6, just bring that down, and the absolute value of -2. How far away is -2 from 0? 2. Okay, and this may seem silly to you, but when I tell you, you will be less likely to make a mistake. When you see the numbers, you'll make silly mistakes if you don't do it this way. I'd rather you do it this way. When we're dealing with bigger numbers and lots of negatives, this method will come in handy. Okay, so now we're going to put them in order from least to greatest. The lowest number there, okay, you got to look carefully because it's not 2, it would be the -7. So I'm going to write down -7, and I'm going to cross it off as I go so that I don't use it again. It doesn't get in my way. If there's more numbers, it gets confusing. The next number would be 2, then 4, then 5, and then 6. By crossing it off, you're less likely to miss a number too. So that would be number 9. Okay? If you'd like to give number 10 a try, pause the video and do it yourself, you may, or I'm going to do number 10 with you right now. Okay, we have the absolute value of 3, which would be how far away is 3 from 0? That would be 3. We have the number 0. We have the absolute value of -5. How far away is -5 from 0? That would be 5. We have a -6. Just bring that down. And the absolute value of -7. How far away is -7 from 0? That would be 7. And now we're going to put that in order from least to greatest. The lowest number would be -6. Then we have 0. Then we have 3. Then 5. And then 7. So these numbers are now in order from least to greatest. And when you're doing this, I do want them rewritten like that. I feel like you may have done something. Some students may have just put numbers over them to put them in order from least to greatest. I'd rather them rewritten in order from least to greatest. Again, less likely to make a mistake that way. Okay, in this last part, it just says to simplify. Simplify is a fancy word for solve or evaluate. Those words all mean the same. Simplify, solve, evaluate. We use them differently for different problems. So number 11 is asking us, what is the absolute value of -18? How far away is -18 from 0? So that would be 18, okay? Now on number 12, if you've noticed, there's this little negative symbol in front of the absolute value symbol. Do you see that? Okay, so basically that's saying what is the opposite of the absolute value of -18, or negative and then the absolute value of -18? Basically, just bring down that negative and then find the absolute value of -18. We just figured that out in the last problem. How far away is -18 from 0? It's 18, okay? The only difference is you have that negative there, so you need to make sure you bring that down. That's it. Okay, looking at number 13, again, we have that negative here in front, so we're going to bring that down. And then the absolute value of 14. How far away is 14 from 0? That would be 14. Okay, on number 14, you have that negative there, so let's bring that down. And then the absolute value of -14, how far away is -14 from 0? It would be 14 away from 0. Okay, so sometimes people say, well, with absolute value, you'll never have a negative answer. Well, you will if you have a negative symbol in front of your absolute value sign. Okay, find the absolute value of the number and bring down your negative symbol, and that's it. Okay, if you have any questions, please write them down on the back of the sheet, and I will be happy to answer those in class for you. Have a great day.